and welcome back to the Quad Wedge Q&A. Today's question that we're going to answer is, how do you place the wedge when there is only a small amount of clearance? And I think what this question is pertaining to is when we have a tight embrasure. So we often encounter those between the first and second molars in this distal area, but we can also encounter it when we have over-contoured crowns or really skinny bicuspids, and you can see, like on an x-ray, if their contact areas are like this and where the bottom of my fingers meet, if it's really tight on the bite wing, then it's going to be a tight embrasure, versus if you have something more like this, it's going to be a more normal embrasure. But for these tight ones, getting any wedge in there can be cumbersome. But the good news about the quad wedge is that it can quickly overcome this. So say you either identify this as a tight embrasure before you begin placing your wedge, or you figure it out as you start to place it, like it's not wanting to go, right? It's kind of wanting to bend. Simply pull it back, and then you're going to take a pair of scissors and you're going to cut off the side that's not the wing that's not touching your matrix band. So I'm simply just going to go right there, pop the scissors in, snip that off, and now I have a nice skinny wedge that can navigate that tight embrasure. Okay, so we're just going to pretend like this is a tight embrasure even though it's not. So I place it in, I let the body of the wedge engage here, but now I know that I have my wedge all the way through that really tight embrasure as I can see it emerge on the other side. And then you can take the quad ring and just lean it up against that single wing like so. So I'm just going to put the quad wedge on this side of the the quad ring on this side of the split quad wedge, and there you have it. So in those tight embrasure spaces, just grab a pair of scissors and snip off one of those wings, and then you have the world's skinniest wedge to get through those challenging spaces. And if you run into a back-to-back situation in that case, I would do the exact same thing. I would just snip off one bit of the wedge, and I know we like to put our driver tip in between the splitting wings of the wedges, but if you end up with a really tight embrasure, having the split wing on one side and then the driver tip on the other side of that split wing, that is going to seal everything that you need on that side. That's going to take up all the space, because sometimes those tight embrasures don't give us a lot of space. So don't be alarmed when you see a tight embrasure. This is the best way to solve it.